Hello again, my princes and princesses of nothing. We are continuing to read this book. Well, I'm continuing to read this book, and you are continuing to comment, hopefully, or listen to my experience in this vlog-style weird series that I'm doing. But I am continually enjoying this book. However, this chapter, Chapter 2, Late Winter, 4110, Year of the Tusk. Atiersis. I think I got it. Names, Bakker, these names. But we're back with Achamian again, and he is summoned back home. I had to read this part twice because there is, let's call it an alphabet soup of names or dropped on my head, thrown in my face, and I slipped down and lost consciousness, but I'm back. I decided to go back and read it all over again, read it slowly. He's at a quorum. He's summoned back home to be interviewed, I guess, talked to by all of these, all of his elders, all of these other, these mages at this crazy place where he is finally, or at least we're given a look at what this guy looks like. So we note that he doesn't look like a normal sorcerer might look like. He's tanned. He's weathered because he's traveling, because he's a spy, right? He can't appear as if he is a sorcerer, so he needs to be undercover. We also learn that they cut their beards straight across the bottom. But there's some more beautiful descriptions, very simple though, of this place called, I'll try it again, Adiersis. Oh, I got it, I think. Had been built in the manner of the ancient North, whose architects had known nothing of arches or domes. Her inner galleries were forests of thick columns, their ceilings obscured by canopies of darkness and smoke. Stylized reliefs sheathed every pillar, providing the shining braziers with too much detail. So Achamian thought. Cool description, more Dark Souls vibes, of course. I guess the one cool thing about this book that I'm really getting that I don't get in a lot of fantasy novels is just the sheer, I don't want to say scale, but like ancient nature of it, right? The historicity of it. There's a really heavy emphasis on time and space and scale, of course, too. But and how all these characters fit in it. It just I get this very overwhelming sense of just epic oldness. Cyclopean, which I forgot that Bakker actually used that word, cyclopean. That is also a favorite of Mr. H.P. Lovecraft. He used it quite often. You don't see that word much anymore, so I'm glad Bakker brought it back. But anyway, he's talked to by these guys. He's informed that there's a holy war of some kind on the horizon. There's a character named Maithanet, something like that, who has put himself in power, and he is allegedly trying to create this holy war. There was even rumors of him having designs of poisoning himself. Well, he had a design of making himself assassinated. So anyway, interesting character. So anyway, he talks to these guys, and we find out that they're sending him to Sumna to discover Maithanet's true intent. We also discover that there is a person named Inrau who was an ex-student of Achamian, and he let him go because he was innocent, which I'll get into a little bit more, but he's become a Shriel priest. There we go. I think I got it. So, needless to say, Achamian, he's not too stoked on what's going on here. There's also more biblical, God, I got to say that word every single time on every single one of these episodes when he's talking about the crucifixion, the glint of sunlight across the bronze nails through his forearms. Speaking of Seswatha, yes, that man. I'm really surprised at how just blatantly clear, just on the surface, that Bakker is being with these Christian motifs, because clearly, I think anyway, we're dealing with a fantasy setting that has nothing to do with Earth. I've been duped before by other fantasy novels, so I don't know. We'll see. But maybe he just has an infatuation with that iconography and just the symbolism and all that, or maybe he's using it as a vessel for the familiar, right? Because I think there is power in the familiar. However, I don't think I've ever witnessed it so blatant in a fantasy novel that is, I think, taking place in another world. Presumably. Let me know. No, don't let me know if it's a spoiler. So next scene, I love this scene because I love stories that are about human emotion, about people reflecting, about just the power of events and how they have on people with their love and their hatred and desires. And that's what we have here. We have a Cayman. He's standing alone on these parapets. He's looking out over at this ocean where there are these beautiful, beautiful, massive waves of subtext, literal waves, but is also subtextual because he is he's a little bit conflicted, right? Because his old student, he's told to go seek him out, and he didn't know that they knew, because what did he do? He faked his death. So this poor boy in Rao, who was very innocent, and I think that's the biggest thing I got out of this chapter, is that Akamian is trying to protect the innocence. He saw such beauty and innocence in this boy that he wanted to protect it at all costs. And so rather than forbidding him from leaving or putting him to death himself, he faked it, right? He notes here, right? Beauty. This was Inrao's gift. He never ceased to see beauty. And because of this, he always understood, always saw through and forgave the many blemishes that marred other men. So he just wants to preserve this beauty in this boy. And that's totally understandable. I mean, especially in this world where it seems like there's just so much conflict, so much strife, so much pain, turmoil, all the words and more that I'm using here. But yeah, I don't know. It was nice to see. I just pictured, came in standing on these parapets, looking out over this great sea, and just the sheer scale of it. Again, I think the scale of where he's standing really, it homes in on how he's feeling and what's going through his mind. And he's just up there thinking about this. But also, there's another person who he wants to see in Sumna. So he idly wondered if he would find Esmenet there, whether she still lived. This is a woman that he presumably loves or loved at some point. But unfortunately, he is also very sad because he feels that he has failed the boy because they know these people, these other sorcerers, and he's concerned about what is to come, clearly. And I'll leave you with his last bit here in this scene. He yearned to once again see these two people, one whom he loved only to lose to the 1,000 temples, the other whom he thought he might love, ... Were he a man and not a sorcerer and a spy? So he's reminiscing about what would it be like? What would this alternate life be like if I were not a spy, if I were not a sorcerer? What a simple, beautiful life I might have. And then the next scene takes us to Natzera, who was one of these men he was speaking to in this quorum, lingered on the parapets. He's watching this man walk away, and he finds himself going into this other library, talking to another man, Simas, something like that. And they're talking about that they kind of misled, they misled this man, Akamia, again, because that is not the full story. That is not the full story. They did not give him all of the information. And so they're kind of scheming here and there about what knowledge is, what ignorance is, the power of both. And so I think that's more subtlety in Bakker's philosophical musings, I guess, with the characters. And I kind of appreciate that subtlety. But then they bring up one thing. You've heard new reports, he said at length. Someone else is dead. And Simas had always possessed the uncanny ability to guess the cause of his many rumors. Worse, Nadsera said. Missing this morning. Barthelsis reported that his primary informant in Tidoni court had vanished without a trace. Our agents are being hunted, Simas. And so this to me feels like it's going back to this agent that he met in the Holy Leper, who was killed by this monstrous thing. This person or this thing seems to be hunting their informants. So I'm guessing that's where things are going to continue. But I don't know. I enjoyed this one. I loved the, I guess the first part of it, the quorum, kind of hit me like like I said, an alphabet soup. It was just so much to take in. But again, I kind of appreciate that world building as opposed to something that's heavily expository, because the repetition is what eventually will work its way in my head. But then after that, I really love the scene with a guy standing on the parapets, thinking about his student that he let go, that he had to fake the death of, how all these people know he's alive. So just, he's a very troubled individual, and I'm curious to see where the book goes. So let me know down in the comments if you are reading this along with me as well, or if you are a seasoned veteran and have some more things to talk about that I skirted over. Thanks for watching and hanging out with me on this this journey through the darkness that comes before, and I will see you in the next video with chapter 3.